Okay, so I'm gonna try to take you through step by step, basically repacking this cylinder, how I do it. There's other ways to do it, but I've got a retainer on here. These are a pain in the rear to get off. A lot of times you just gotta take a screwdriver. Sometimes you can spread them open enough you can get a screwdriver in behind them and pry them off. But this one's being difficult, so what we'll do is we'll just, yeah. Under it like that, pop it off of there, and then there's a pin comes out, and then we'll be ready to pull this pin out. But what I usually like to do is I'll set a block of wood. When you pull that out, you don't want to drop this down and bend your barrel or your oil tank or fuel tank on the other side. So if you're doing the other side. So anyway, I'll put a block of wood here just to support that. And I can just set that down, pull the pin out. Now on the gland nut, I always call this a gland nut or gland, or there's a set bolt or set screw in these. This one's never been out, but it's just a small screw. And what they do is whenever they set these tight at the factory, they just basically drill and tap this in there so it holds that gland nut from turning. And this, I like this system a lot better than how sometimes they will put Loctite on these gland nuts, and it's pretty tough to get them apart. So you pull that screw out, don't lose it, you gotta use it back. Okay, now on these gland nuts, there's pinholes, and they use what they call a spanner. And I've actually built this spanner here. I've actually made to use. Just basically, it's a rough cut piece of steel that I drilled the holes in the right spacing. Just saves you from using a pipe wrench or something like that on it. But normally, if you can get these locked in, it just takes a couple taps from a hammer. Sometimes it takes more than that, but usually, yeah. It's the problem with this homemade tool is it doesn't fit as tight as a factory one, so I don't know if it's going to work or not. Usually they work. Worked on the other side just perfect. So we will keep trying here a bit. Not going to stay in there. I may have to get a pipe wrench on this one, but so here we go. This is why sometimes you do things different. You want to be darn sure you don't bugger up the. You don't want to mess up your gland in any way, but. There we go, okay. It didn't take a whole lot there, but it just took a bit more than what I had on the spanner. I need to buy the right tool for that. if you're careful, you can do it this way too. Alright, that drain pan doesn't fit down in there real good, but should work good enough to get this off. You'll lose a couple gallons oil on these when you change them. They're starting to run some oil out there. So that's that. Now what I'll do next is take this line loose to the rod, or the piston end of the cylinder, and that's just to let air into it. Another drain pan down here. Alright, now we can pull this pin back out here and now we're ready to pull this rod out of the Okay, now we're ready to pull the rod out of the barrel. Get my oil pan out of the way here. Now when this comes out, there'll be a bunch more oil up behind that piston that you'll have to allow to run out. Now these pretty heavy. These are heavy too, so you got to be careful. And they're greasy. Now we'll just what we'll do is we'll come out here to the end of the stroke where the threads are, and then we'll just kind of let the oil run out of there slowly so it doesn't just splash all over the floor. And get out past that cylinder, just that piston seal just a little bit, and just let her drain. And we'll be ready to pull this over to the bench, and then we'll take it apart. Yep, that's what I was talking about. Okay, so we got the cylinder rod out here, and now on these cylinders, these things are Loctited. They put Loctite on this bolt. This bolt holds the piston on. You can't get the gland off without taking the piston off. So we're going to warm this up a bit with a torch, and I'm just going to use a small propane torch. I don't want to get it super hot, but we'll just warm it up here a bit, and we'll take that bolt out. And I'll start by just heating the bolt first from the head end. And we'll get it warmed up, and then I'll move over to the rod and warm it up a bit. You don't want to get it too awful hot. That's just a map gas torch. It doesn't take a whole lot to do this. You could probably use a heat gun, I guess. Might take a while, but never tried it with a heat gun. But you're not looking to get anything red hot. You just got to get it warm enough to get that Loctite loose. You don't want to burn the chrome off the rod or nothing. You gotta get it hot. That might be enough. We'll see what happens here. Okay, well, that one took a lot more power to get off than the other one did, and I did put more heat on it. You know, that bolt is still smoking hot. Don't touch it. Okay, now we're ready to pull the gland off. And I'll go ahead and wash it up a bit and then we'll tear it down here. Start out with the gland. I'll just basically start by prying out the scraper or the wiper seal. A lot of times you can just get a screwdriver up under the back of it and you can just kind of work your way around in a circle. This one's awful tight. Everything on this side's tight. I don't know why the other one, it came apart so dang easy. Okay, so that's that. So if you want to really keep track of this, the best way to do it is to get you a piece of pipe or something like this and slide all your parts on it the direction they come off. So this comes off first, and that's the outside. And this next one here is going to be harder to get out, so I usually just stab into it with a straight pick or a screwdriver and narrowing it, and keep track of which way these go in. This one here, the big side goes toward the pressure or toward the inside of the rod. So let's see, we did that one that way. This one's going to come off like that. Our next one, I'm going to have to have a different type of seal hook here. Maybe not. Basically, you're just going to have to stab a hole in it and pull it out of there. But this is another seal that has a groove on the pressure side. It's flat on this side. You can see this stuff's been flaking off. That's a good sign they're getting ready to fail right there. So we'll throw that one on there. And then the next thing we got is the bearing or the wear ring. And it's just a bearing. So that's the way they came off. And then always keep track of which way these are on your backup ring and your O-ring here. O-ring is always toward the pressure, and the pressure is going to be this way. Outside is no pressure, inside is pressure. So pressure pushes against the O-ring and it pushes against the backup ring. So you always want the backup ring on the outside or the side where there's no pressure. So that's stripped. We'll wash it again. And next we got our piston. And I'll show you, this piston seal was getting ready to come apart. You see how it's feathered or flaked? It's been trying to leak. So it's a good time to fix this. And on these, you're destroying parts here, so it doesn't matter how this comes out. Usually these break. But there's like a Teflon seal on the top, and then underneath that there's a square section O-ring or a rubber neoprene or something. And then again we got a bearing on the piston itself, and that comes off. Now that's stripped, it's ready to wash, and I'll get them cleaned up, and then I'll show you how I put it all back together. Clean up the bolt, get the threads clean out the inside of the rod for the thread cleaner, and just basically clean stuff up. Okay, I've got my seal kit. This is just one I bought off of eBay. I found the part number on New Holland site, and then it's got a New Holland part number on it, but this is an aftermarket. Probably comes from Hercules or one of those manufacturers that build this kind of stuff. Anyway, what I've got here is just a coffee can lid, and I've got some needs a little more in it probably. I don't believe in putting these together dry. I always believe in lubing the seals. So I've got some STP and just some, I believe that's trans hydraulic oil there. And what I've got here is some hot water, just tap water, and this is the seal that goes on the piston. This is the Teflon. These are really stiff. I found if you soak them in hot water for a little bit, it'll help you out when you're putting those in. Okay, so we'll start out with our clean gland. I've got everything pretty much washed up, clean as it's going to get. And we'll start putting it together. This is our bearing. Well, let's see. Let's start with it. We'll put our bearing in first. Like I say, we're going to dip everything we got in that oil. And that should just fit inside. It should snap all the way. It's split, but it should open up. I had this problem with the one before. Kind of had to work it down in there to get it to, you spin it a little bit, it seems like it kind of works down in there better. Could be the oil, the thickness of the oil maybe holding it out. Alright, we're going to turn the gland over now, and we're going to find the snubber seal, or this is the pressure seal. Now there's a flat side and then there's a cup side. The cup side generally on these will go toward the, it'll be pointed back toward the piston, or where the pressure's at. So we'll lube that one up. Now this one you just kind of gotta, there's a slot down in here. Basically you just try to get it started in that slot, and you just kind of work it in there with your fingers, try not to cut it. Sometimes usually once you get them started, you just kind of work your way around them, they'll fall into place. Just be sure you got the groove the right direction on it. It's hard to get those out if you got them in backwards. Next we've got our main pressure, or U-cup seal, I believe that's what that's called. Again, the cup side goes toward the piston. And for this one, we're going to use this fancy tool we've got here. And this is actually let's see. This actually makes installing these a lot, well, if you do it right. Okay, what am I doing? This is how it goes right here. Basically, you just take this tool. It's slippery. When you get your hands all greasy, it's pretty fun to do this. It flipped out. Basically, it twists the seal into the shape of a E, and you can actually set that down in the groove and then release it. I've done this without these tools, and you can do it, but man, these are nice. I mean, just so easy. You basically just lay it in there and it unfolds itself right back out on in the groove, and then we're good there. Next thing we got will be our next seal will be our wiper, and I don't put any oil on it. I want it to be dry when I put it in. Let's see what I got here. That's too little. I've actually got a piece of plate here that's flat. Basically, set the plate on it and just drive it in. Till it's flush, and then you're done with that. Now the only other seals we got are the O-ring and the backup ring for the outside of the gland. Go ahead and put that one together, and a lot of times on this one it's easier to put the O-ring on first, I think. Might be wrong. This one here usually has a lot of stretching to do, so you just got to take a O-ring pick and just ease your way around it. That's the best way I know how to do it. Try not to twist it. And it goes, like I say, it's going to go in on the thread side or the outer side of the O-ring. So that's the backup ring. So the gland nut is complete. I can go ahead and put it on this rod. Be sure you put it on the right way. Now the piston is next. We're going to get that square ring oily. Like I say, you can do this dry. I don't like to do it dry, but I've seen guys do it dry and I've had problems with it. So that's your square ring that goes underneath the Teflon ring. I'll get my Teflon ring out of my hot water here, and it should be a little bit softer, a lot easier to deal with. And basically you're just going to hopefully just take your thumb, and that's the best way, is just work it down with your thumb if you can, and that way it doesn't get overstretched too much. It's got a little water on it, but that's okay. And then the last thing we got to do here is our piston bearing or wear ring. It just snaps over, and that's all done. Then the piston goes on the rod. I'll get some of this oil off my hands, and we'll put the nut or the bolt. I just use a blue thread locker. I've never had one come loose. Now I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I just use a blue. I don't use a heavy high strength. I just use a blue. Seems to work, but use plenty of it on there. You don't want that coming off. Anyway, you do that and then put the bolt in and we'll tighten it. There's only one way this piston can go on. This cup side goes over the rod, so that makes that easy. We'll give it a buzz with the impact and then we'll put a little extra on it. I'm gonna say that's enough. So now this is all ready to go back in the barrel on the tractor. Everything's, all the seals are new, everything's clean, oiled up. Okay, whenever you go to put this together, there's threads, so you want to be real careful when you put the seal in. You don't want to just drag it on those threads, but then it's got a bevel back inside, so it should push everything back together, compress the seals in. And it takes a pretty good amount of force to get these started, but it shouldn't take a hammer to get these together. You should be able to just push them. If they don't go fairly easy, then you need to pull it back out and make sure you don't have something pinched. Sometimes those rings try to come out, and when they do that, it'll cut them. So you want to be sure you got that right. And now we're just a matter of threading everything back together, and I'm just going to spin the rod, which is spinning the gland nut. This makes it a little easier to get things worked down a little closer to where we need them. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pin the cylinder back on the backhoe. So we'll push that up, and then we've got to put the pin in here. That's it. And we put the locking pin back in there. Get that lined up. Alright, we got that side in there. Now the snap ring, these are a pain. Sometimes though you get lucky and they go right on, just like that. Now, we need to tighten our gland nut. I'm not going to bother with the fancy tool. That didn't work. But there's all different types of cylinders, and the way they come apart is all different. So before you take any cylinder apart, you need to understand how they're put together. Some of them have a lock wire inside of them. Some of them like this are threaded. Some of them have bolts, holds the heads on them. Some of them come apart from the other end. You just need to know what you're working on. Okay, so basically tighten, well, we basically tighten this one until these holes line up. Actually, it's a half a hole. They drilled part of it on the barrel and part of it on the gland nut, so you basically line those up, thread this together, and then we're done pretty much. The only thing we lack is to put this hose back on, and then I'm going to cycle the hydraulics kind of slow to get the air out of the system, and then I'll probably need to add some oil to the system. We probably lost 3 or 4 gallons, I'd guess, on this. Maybe just 3, I don't know, wasn't that much. But I just wanted to kind of go through this step by step, show you how I do it, the whole process. Didn't know if I'd ever done that before. I don't remember ever doing it like this. I think I've tried before. Thing about video and stuff is I'm not a Hollywood studio. I'm doing this stuff when I need to, not just as a setup. So sometimes it's hard to get things on camera, and when you do get it on camera, sometimes it doesn't turn out like you thought it would. The sound could be bad. Lots of things can go wrong. Anyway, we'll see how this one turns out here. But it's pretty much all done. Like I say, I think that's all the leaky cylinders I have for now. Those are the last 2 that have never been replaced, and now they have been. So like I say, the only other cylinder that hasn't been touched is the steering cylinder. That will probably be soon, I would guess. So I probably ought to go ahead and get a kit for it. But it's gonna be a pretty good project. I don't think I have to drop the axle out. I think it can come out. I don't know for sure. I don't remember on this one. I'll have to look it over. It's a little different. But anyway, at some point I'll have to pull it apart and repack it. So anyway, we're ready to go to work again, I think, maybe.